On a raw, windswept Tuesday in late October 2023, the first official report was filed. Imani Washington, age 18, was missing. Her roommate at Northgate University, a nervous sophomore named Chloe, had made the call. She explained to the campus police officer that Imani had not returned to their shared dormitory room the previous night. Her bed was still made, untouched, a silent testament to an absence that felt colder than the autumn air seeping through the window frame. The officer took down the details with a practiced, almost weary, patience. He asked about Imani's habits, her friends, her state of mind. Chloe answered what she could, her voice trembling. She mentioned an argument Imani had with her mother over the phone. She said Imani had left their room around 7 in the evening, grabbing only her worn denim jacket and her small crossbody bag, saying she just needed to get some air and think. What Chloe did not know, what no one could have known then, was that this was not the story of a young woman who had simply run away. It was the beginning of a story about a quiet, unassuming evil that wore a friendly face. It was the story of a predator who did not stalk the shadows, but instead served coffee under the warm, fluorescent lights of a 24-hour diner. Imani Washington was a girl sculpted from dreams and anxieties. She had arrived at Northgate University 3 months earlier from a small town 3 states away, a scholarship her golden ticket out. She was the first in her family to go to a 4-year university, a fact that sat on her shoulders like a crown made of lead. Her mother, a single parent who worked double shifts as a nurse, saw Imani's acceptance letter as a prophecy fulfilled, the culmination of a generation's worth of sacrifice. Imani felt the weight of that sacrifice in every textbook she opened, in every lecture she attended. She was a gifted artist, her sketchbooks filled with charcoal portraits that seemed to breathe on the page, but she had declared her major as pre-law. A practical choice, a safe choice, a choice made for her mother. The pressure was immense. The sprawling campus, with its imposing brick buildings and thousands of unfamiliar faces, made her feel small, anonymous. The loneliness was a physical ache, a constant companion that followed her from the lecture hall to the dining commons, to her side of the small dorm room. She was adrift in a sea of expectation. That Monday, the day before she vanished, the pressure had finally cracked the surface. Her midterm grades had been posted, a C+ in constitutional law, a B- in sociology. Not failures, but not the straight A's her mother's pride was built upon. The phone call home had been a disaster. Her mother, exhausted from a 12-hour shift, had not hidden her disappointment. Her voice, usually a source of comfort, had been sharp with worry. She had asked if Imani was studying enough, if she was wasting time, if she was forgetting why she was there. Imani had tried to explain the difficulty, the speed of the coursework, the overwhelming sense of being out of her depth, but her words had come out defensive and angry. She had said things she did not mean, accusing her mother of not understanding, of pushing her too hard. Her mother had responded with a wounded silence, a silence that was worse than any shouting. The call ended with a quiet clipped, "We'll talk when you're in a better frame of mind." Imani had hung up, the phone feeling slick with sweat in her hand. The weight on her shoulders had become unbearable. She had to get out. The Starlight Diner was a relic from another time, a capsule of chrome and faded red vinyl nestled between a laundromat and a check cashing store. Its neon sign, with a sputtering star at its peak, cast a lonely, buzzing glow onto the wet pavement. It was a place for the sleepless, the transient, and the lost. On that cold October night, Imani Washington was all three. She pushed open the heavy glass door, a small bell announcing her arrival with a cheerful, incongruous jingle. The air inside was thick with the smells of old coffee, sizzling bacon, and bleach. It was warm, a welcome respite from the biting wind that had chased her down the street. The diner was mostly empty, a couple of truck drivers hunched over plates of steak and eggs in a corner booth. An elderly woman sat alone, stirring a cup of tea with meticulous slowness. Imani slid onto a stool at the long, polished counter, the vinyl cracking softly beneath her. She felt a strange sense of comfort in the anonymity of the place. Here she was not a disappointing daughter or a struggling student. She was just a customer. She shrugged off her denim jacket, her eyes scanning the laminated menus tucked behind the napkin dispensers. She was not hungry. The argument with her mother had left a knot of acid in her stomach. She just needed a place to sit, a place to exist where no one knew her name or her grades. A figure moved into her line of sight, wiping down the counter with a clean, white cloth. "Rough night?" a voice asked. Imani looked up. He was a man who seemed to be in his mid-20s with sandy brown hair that fell over his forehead and a pair of surprisingly kind blue eyes. He wore the diner's standard uniform, a white shirt, black pants, and a slightly stained black apron. A name tag was pinned to his shirt, Ethan. His smile was easy and unthreatening. It was not a leer or a smirk, but a look of genuine mild concern. It was a smile that invited confidence. Imani gave a small non-committal shrug. "You could say that," she mumbled, her gaze dropping back to the counter. She felt the sting of tears behind her eyes and blinked them away fiercely. The last thing she wanted was to cry in front of a stranger. He seemed to understand. He did not press, did not ask any more questions. Instead, he simply placed a heavy ceramic mug in front of her and filled it with dark, steaming coffee from a glass pot. "On the house," he said softly. "You look like you need it." The simple gesture of kindness was so unexpected that it almost broke her composure completely. She wrapped her cold hands around the warm mug, the heat seeping into her skin. "Thank you," she whispered, the words barely audible over the hum of the refrigerator unit. He nodded, giving the counter one last wipe before leaning against the stainless steel milkshake machine. He kept a respectful distance, but his posture was open and attentive. He was not busy. The diner was in its nightly lull. He was simply there. For several long minutes they sat in a comfortable silence, punctuated only by the clatter of dishes from the kitchen and the low murmur of the truck driver's conversation. Imani sipped the coffee. It was bitter and strong, but it was hot and it was something to do. She felt the tight knot in her chest begin to loosen, just a fraction. Finally, Ethan spoke again, his voice low and calm. "I get it, you know," he said, "coming in here to escape. This place is like a confessional for people who don't go to church." Imani looked at him, surprised by his perception. She saw no judgment in his eyes, only a quiet understanding. It made her want to talk. It made her want to unload the burden she was carrying. "Is it that obvious?" she asked, a small, humorless smile touching her lips. He returned the smile. "Only to a professional," he said, gesturing around the diner. "I've seen every kind of trouble walk through that door. Bad breakups, bad bosses, bad report cards, you name it." He paused, his gaze gentle. "You look more like the bad report card type, or maybe a fight with the parents." His guess was so accurate it startled a small laugh out of her. It was a watery, fragile sound, but it was a laugh nonetheless. "Both," she admitted, the confession tumbling out before she could stop it. "And a fight with my own brain, I think." He nodded slowly, as if this was the most profound thing he had ever heard. He did not offer platitudes or easy solutions. He simply listened, his full attention on her. This, Imani would later realize, was his greatest skill. He had the gift of making a person feel like they were the only one in the world. "The brain's the toughest one to fight," he agreed. "It knows all your weak spots." And with that, the dam broke. The story of her life, or at least the last 3 months of it, came pouring out of her in a torrent of whispered frustrations. She told him about the scholarship, the pressure, the pre-law major she hated. She told him about her art, the one thing that made her feel alive, and how she felt guilty for even thinking about it. She told him about the phone call with her mother, her voice cracking as she recounted the disappointment she had heard, the weight of being a dream her mother was having for her. She, explained the suffocating loneliness of campus, the feeling of being an imposter, of waiting for everyone to find out that she was not as smart or as strong as they all thought she was. Ethan listened. He did not interrupt. He just stood there, his blue eyes fixed on her, nodding in all the right places. He refilled her coffee mug without her having to ask. When she finally fell silent, emotionally exhausted from her own monologue, he did not immediately speak. He gave her words space to hang in the air. Then he shared a piece of himself, or rather, a carefully constructed piece of what he wanted her to believe was himself. He told her he understood because he had been there. He said he had tried college for a year, a business degree his father had pushed on him. He described feeling like he was suffocating, chasing a life that was not his. He explained that he had dropped out, a decision that had caused a huge rift with his family. "They thought I was throwing my life away," he said, his voice tinged with a convincing sadness. "To come work here." He gestured to the diner again, a self-deprecating smile on his face. "But you know what? It was the best thing I ever did. I needed to figure out who I was, not who they wanted me to be." His story was a mirror, perfectly reflecting her own fears and desires. It validated her feelings of being trapped. It offered a narrative of rebellion and self-discovery that was intoxicating to her 18-year-old soul. He was not just a server in a diner. He was a kindred spirit, a fellow traveler on the road of parental expectation and personal confusion. He made her feel seen. He made her feel normal. He made her feel, for the first time in a long time, like she was not completely alone. "It's hard," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Feeling like you're letting everyone down." "The only person you can truly let down is yourself," he replied, the line delivered with the smooth confidence of a seasoned actor. "By not living the life you're meant to live." He looked at her sketch pad, which was peeking out of her crossbody bag. "You said you're an artist?" Imani nodded, a blush creeping up her neck. She felt a sudden shyness about her passion. "You shouldn't hide that," he said, his voice earnest. "That's who you are. The world has enough lawyers. It never has enough artists." His words were like water on parched earth. They were everything she had longed to hear, everything her mother, in her pragmatic love, could never bring herself to say. He was not just listening to her problems, he was validating her dreams. In the span of an hour, over 2 cups of free coffee, Ethan had transformed himself from a stranger into an ally, a confidant. A decision that would cost her her life was being made in that moment, though she could not have possibly known it. She was simply a lonely, upset young woman who had stumbled upon a well of kindness. She had no way of knowing the well was poisoned. The diner's clock, a large grease-filmed circle above the kitchen pass-through, showed it was nearly 10 o'clock. The truck drivers had left, replaced by a pair of night shift security guards. Ethan's shift was ending. Another server, a tired-looking woman with a formidable beehive hairdo, came on duty and began setting up for the late-night rush. Ethan untied his apron, folding it neatly and placing it under the counter. The easy, friendly server was gone, replaced by a regular person, a man named Ethan. It felt like a natural progression, a shift from a professional interaction to a personal one. He turned to Imani, who was suddenly aware that her time in this safe harbour was over. A wave of her earlier anxiety washed back over her. She had to go back to the dorm, to the cold silence of her room and the looming dread of her academic responsibilities. "Well, my night of slinging hash is over," Ethan said with a light-hearted sigh. He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a more conspiratorial tone. "Listen, I know this is forward, but you still seem pretty wound up. And diner coffee can only do so much." He paused, letting the offer hang in the air. "My shift is done. I was going to grab a real drink to unwind. Nothing fancy, just a flask of whiskey and a quiet spot to look at the stars. It always helps me clear my head. Would you want to join me? Just to talk some more?" "No pressure, of course." The offer was presented so casually, so innocently. It was not a date. It was an extension of the kindness he had already shown her. It was a chance to continue this conversation that had felt so liberating. A flask of whiskey and a quiet spot. It sounded rustic, simple, even a little bit romantic, in a way that felt safe. A part of her, a small cautious voice that sounded a lot like her mother, whispered a warning. "You don't know this man. You should go home." But another louder voice drowned it out. It was the voice of her loneliness, her frustration, her desperation for a momentary escape. This man, Ethan, understood her. He did not judge her. He thought she should be an artist. Going with him felt like an act of defiance against the life that was suffocating her. It felt like choosing herself, just as he had described doing. "I'm not 21, she said, the statement both a confession and a test. Ethan just smiled, a disarming, boyish grin. "I won't tell if you won't," he said. "Besides, we're not going to a bar. My car is right outside. We can just drive up to Miller's Point. It's quiet up there. You can see the whole city." The idea was tempting. Away from campus, away from everything. Just the city lights and a conversation with someone who finally seemed to get it. It felt like the perfect antidote to the poison of her day. "Okay," she heard herself say, the word leaving her lips before she had fully considered its weight. "Yeah, okay." The decision was made. The trap was set. Ethan's car was not what she expected. It was an older model sedan, a dark, anonymous colour, but it was immaculately clean inside. The tidiness was reassuring. It spoke of a person who was organised, responsible. There was no trash on the floor, no clutter on the dashboard. It smelled faintly of pine air freshener. He opened the passenger door for her, another small courteous gesture that chipped away at the last of her reservations. As she slid into the seat, he walked around to the driver's side, his movements relaxed and confident. He seemed completely at ease. He started the car, the engine turning over with a quiet rumble. As he pulled out of the diner's parking lot, he turned on the radio, keeping the volume low. A soft indie rock song filled the small space, creating a comfortable, intimate atmosphere. "So, Miller's Point," he said, his eyes on the road. "You ever been up there?" Imani shook her head. "I haven't really been anywhere except campus and the blocks right around it." "Then you're in for a treat," he said with a smile. "It's the best view in the county, puts everything in perspective." The drive took about 15 minutes. They left the main commercial strip behind, turning onto a series of darker, winding roads that led up into the hills overlooking the city. The street lights grew sparse, then disappeared altogether, replaced by the pale, silvery light of a half moon. The world outside the car's headlights became a landscape of shadows and silhouettes. Imani watched the city lights shrink in the distance, feeling a sense of detachment, of floating above her own life. The argument with her mother, the bad grades, the suffocating dorm room, it all seemed very far away. She felt a flicker of something she had not felt in months, excitement, a small adventure. Ethan kept the conversation light, asking about her hometown, her favourite artists, the kind of music she liked. He shared more details about himself, all of them carefully selected to reinforce the persona he had created. He spoke of wanting to travel, of maybe opening his own small cafe one day, a place with art on the walls and live music. He was painting a picture of a life that was authentic and free, a life that appealed directly to her own secret longings. They arrived at Miller's Point, a gravel turnout on the side of the hill. It was completely deserted. Below them, the city was a breathtaking tapestry of glittering lights, a silent, sprawling galaxy. The wind was stronger up here, whistling through the tall pine trees that bordered the overlook. Ethan parked the car, positioning it so they had a perfect view through the front windshield. He cut the engine, and the sudden silence was profound, broken only by the sound of the wind. "See," he said, his voice soft in the quiet car. "Told you it was a good view." Imani could only nod, mesmerized by the sight. It was beautiful. It did put things in perspective. Her problems felt insignificant against the vastness of the city spread out below. Ethan reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a silver flask. It was sleek and polished, catching the dim light from the dashboard. He also produced 2 small collapsible metal cups. He was prepared. This was something he did often, it seemed. Another detail that made the situation feel normal, routine. He unscrewed the cap of the flask and poured a generous amount of amber liquid into each cup. The sharp, sweet smell of whiskey filled the car. He handed one of the cups to her. "To new friends," he said, holding his cup up in a toast. "And to figuring things out." Imani hesitated for only a second. Then she clinked her small metal cup against his. "To figuring things out," she echoed. She took her first sip. The whiskey burned, a fiery trail down her throat that made her cough. She was not a drinker. She had had a few sips of cheap beer at a dorm party once, but this was different. This was potent. Ethan laughed kindly. "Goes down a little rough the first time," he said. "You get used to it." He took a long, easy swallow from his own cup, as if it were water. He was right. The second sip burned less. A pleasant warmth began to spread through her chest, relaxing the tense muscles in her shoulders. The anxieties that had been gnawing at her all evening began to feel fuzzy, distant. They talked for what felt like hours. Or rather, she talked, and he listened, expertly guiding the conversation with gentle questions. He asked more about her art, encouraging her to describe her drawings, her style, her inspirations. No one had ever shown such a deep and genuine interest in her passion before. It was intoxicating. As she spoke, he kept refilling her cup. She lost track of how many times she held it out to him, how many times he topped it off from the seemingly bottomless flask. The burning sensation was replaced by a mellow glow. The world outside the car seemed to soften at the edges. Her words started to slur slightly. Her thoughts, which had been racing all day, slowed to a comfortable, syrupy pace. The cold wind outside no longer mattered. She was warm, cocooned in the small, safe space of the car with this kind, understanding man. This was the critical phase of his plan. The isolation was complete. Her inhibitions were being systematically dismantled by the alcohol. Her judgment, already clouded by emotional distress, was now being chemically compromised. The mask began to slip. It was not a sudden, dramatic removal, but a slow, subtle shift in his demeanor. The change was so gradual that in her inebriated state, she almost did not notice it. His questions became more personal. He was no longer asking about her art or her family. He started asking about her relationships, if she had a boyfriend, if she was lonely. His voice, which had been so gentle and empathetic, took on a slightly different tone. It was still soft, but there was a new intensity to it, a possessiveness that had not been there before. "It must be hard," he said, his eyes lingering on her face, "being so beautiful and so alone." The compliment felt different from his earlier praise of her art. It was not about her talent or her mind, it was about her body. It made a small, sober part of her brain prickle with unease, but the alcohol quickly smoothed it over. Maybe she was misinterpreting it. He was just being nice. He moved a little closer on the bench seat, closing the small gap that had been between them. The space in the car, which had felt cozy and intimate, suddenly felt cramped, claustrophobic. She could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You're special, Imani," he whispered, his voice a low murmur. "You're not like the other girls who come into the diner. They're all so shallow, so empty. But you have a soul." He reached out and tucked a stray braid behind her ear. His fingers brushed against her cheek, and his touch was not gentle. It was firm, proprietary. The gesture was meant to seem tender, but it felt like he was staking a claim. The fog of alcohol in her mind began to thin, pierced by a sharp spike of adrenaline. Something was wrong. The kind, empathetic friend was gone. In his place was a man whose eyes were now cold and calculating, despite the warm smile still fixed on his face. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. This was not kindness. This was a strategy. The diner, the coffee, the listening, the story about his own life, the drive, the whiskey. It was all a performance, a meticulously staged play designed to get her here, in this car, in this isolated place, vulnerable and intoxicated. She was not a kindred spirit he had connected with. She was a target he had selected. Panic, cold and sharp, cut through the warmth of the whiskey. Her heart began to hammer against her ribs. The beautiful view of the city lights now looked sinister, like the eyes of a million indifferent witnesses. The silent, empty overlook was not peaceful. It was a trap. "I should go," she said, her voice sounding small and shaky. She tried to make it sound casual, as if she had just noticed the time. "It's getting late. My roommate will be worried." She reached for the door handle. His hand shot out and clamped down on her wrist. His grip was like steel. All pretense of gentleness vanished. "The night's not over," he said, and his voice was completely different now. It was flat, devoid of any warmth or emotion. It was the voice of a stranger. "We're not done talking." The charming facade dropped completely, shattering like cheap glass. The man looking at her was not Ethan, the friendly server. He was someone else entirely, someone with dead, empty eyes. The smile was gone, replaced by a look of chilling indifference. Terror seized her, every instinct in her body screamed at her to run, to fight, to get out of the car. She pulled at her wrist, but his grip only tightened, his fingers digging into her skin. "Let go of me," she said, her voice rising with fear. "Why?" he asked, his tone mocking. "I thought we were having a good time. I thought we were friends." He leaned in closer, his face just inches from hers. She could smell the whiskey on his breath, mingled with something sour. "You liked it when I listened to your sad little stories, didn't you? You liked feeling special?" He was taunting her, throwing her own vulnerability back in her face. He had seen her desperation, her loneliness, and he had used it like a key to unlock her trust. She yanked her arm again, with all the strength she could muster. "Let me go," she screamed, the sound swallowed by the insulated confines of the car and the howling of the wind outside. His expression hardened. The cold indifference was replaced by a flash of raw, ugly anger. The mask was not just off, it had been pulverized. "You're going to be quiet now," he hissed, his other hand coming up to clamp over her mouth. The final moments of her life were a blur of unimaginable terror. She fought, thrashing against him, her nails scratching at the hand that held her wrist. But he was too strong, and she was too drunk, her movements clumsy and uncoordinated. He overpowered her easily, his weight pinning her against the passenger door. He did not use a weapon. He did not need one. His method was quieter, more methodical. It was the work of a man who had done this before, a man who knew how to leave as little evidence as possible. The world for Imani Washington did not end with a bang. It ended in the suffocating silence of a dark car on a lonely hill, with the indifferent city lights glittering below. She was never seen again. Detective Sarah Harding got the case 2 days after Imani was reported missing. Harding was a 15-year veteran of the city's police force, a sharp, observant woman with a reputation for seeing the details others missed. She specialized in cases involving the vulnerable, runaways, missing teens, the exploited. She had a deep, weary understanding of the predators who moved through the world wearing masks of normalcy. She started where every investigation starts, with the victim's life. She interviewed Imani's roommate, her friends, her professors. She spoke to Imani's mother, a woman who is now hollowed out by grief and guilt, her voice a raw whisper over the phone. A clear picture of Imani emerged, a bright, talented, but deeply lonely and pressured young woman. The fight with her mother was a key detail. It provided a motive for running away, which was the initial theory. Campus police had treated it as such, a frustrated student taking a few days to cool off, but Harding was not convinced. Imani had taken nothing with her. Her wallet, her laptop, her cherished sketchbooks, all were left. In the dorm room, her bank account was untouched. Her phone was powered off. its last ping coming from a cell tower near the university at around 7:30 on Monday night. People who run away usually take their resources with them. Harding dug deeper. She re-interviewed Imani's roommate, Chloe, asking her to go over every detail of that Monday again. Chloe, desperate to help, mentioned something she had forgotten before. Imani had been upset, but she had also mentioned being hungry. She had said something about maybe going to the Starlight Diner, a cheap all-night spot a few blocks from campus. It was a small lead, a fragile thread, but it was something. Harding drove to the Starlight Diner the next afternoon. The place smelled of stale grease and disinfectant. She showed Imani's picture to the staff. The daytime manager did not recognize her. The afternoon waitress did not recognize her. Then she spoke to a server named Ethan Cole. He was polite, helpful, the picture of a concerned citizen. He looked at Imani's photo, his brow furrowed in concentration. He told Harding that he had worked the Monday night shift. He said the diner had been quiet. He remembered a few truck drivers, an old lady, some security guards. "A young woman like this," he said, shaking his head slowly. "No, I don't think so. I have a pretty good memory for faces, I'd remember her." He was a good liar. His expression was perfect. His body language was open and relaxed. But Detective Harding had been interviewing liars for 15 years. She noticed the small things. The way his eyes darted away for a fraction of a second when he first saw the photo. The way he was just a little too eager to be helpful. A subtle tension in his shoulders that contradicted his easygoing smile. Harding felt a cold knot form in her stomach. It was just a hunch, a detective's instinct, but it was strong. This man was hiding something. She thanked him for his time and left the diner, but she did not leave the case. She ran a background check on Ethan Cole. What she found was both illuminating and deeply disturbing. On paper, he was clean. No adult criminal record. But his name had appeared in 2 separate police reports in a neighbouring state 5 years earlier. Both were complaints filed by young women. Both alleged that he had taken them somewhere after meeting them, given them alcohol, and made aggressive, unwanted advances. In both cases, the charges had been dropped. The women had been intoxicated, their stories deemed unreliable. There was no physical evidence. It was their word against his. Ethan Cole had walked away clean, but the pattern was there, a clear, terrifying pattern. Harding now had more than a hunch. She had a suspect, but she had no evidence connecting him to Imani. The break in the case came from an unexpected source. A waitress at the diner, the one with the beehive hairdo who had taken over Ethan's shift that night. Harding had shown her the photo too, and she had not recognized Imani. But the detective's visit had jogged her memory about something else. She called Harding the next day. She said she remembered Ethan talking for a long time with a young black woman at the counter that night. She had not seen the woman's face clearly, but she remembered Ethan giving her free coffee. She remembered them leaving together right after his shift ended. She had thought it was a little strange, but she had been busy and had not given it a second thought until now. It was the confirmation Harding needed. Ethan had lied. He had not only seen Imani, he had left with her. Armed with this new information, Harding obtained a warrant to search Ethan Cole's car and his small, sparse apartment. The apartment was disturbingly neat, almost sterile. But the car told a different story. Forensics went over the vehicle with painstaking care. In the trunk, under the spare tyre, they found a small silver earring with a tiny star-shaped charm. Imani's mother confirmed it through tears. It was part of a pair she'd given Imani for her 18th birthday. They also found something else, something microscopic but damning. Under the passenger seat, deep in the carpet fibres, they found a single strand of hair. A DNA test confirmed it belonged to Imani Washington. Detective Harding brought Ethan Cole in for questioning. He sat in the stark white interrogation room, his composure unwavering. He denied everything. He claimed the waitress was mistaken. He said he had never seen Imani Washington in his life. He was calm, collected, arrogant. Harding let him talk, let him build his wall of lies. Then she slid a small plastic evidence bag across the table. Inside was the silver earring. "We found this in your trunk, Ethan," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "Can you explain that?" For the first time, a flicker of panic appeared in his eyes. The mask cracked. He stared at the earring, his mind racing, trying to formulate a new lie. Then Harding laid out the rest of it. The hair follicle, the waitress's statement, the 2 prior complaints from 5 years ago. She laid it all out, piece by piece, until his wall of lies had crumbled into dust. His confession, when it finally came, was delivered in a cold, detached monotone. He recounted the events of that night with no remorse, no emotion. He described targeting Imani because she looked vulnerable. He detailed how he had built her trust, how he had used her own insecurities against her. He saw her not as a person, but as a challenge, an object to be manipulated and discarded. He led them to the place where he had left her body, a shallow grave in a dense patch of woods, miles away from Miller's Point. Ethan Cole was charged with kidnapping and first-degree murder. With his confession and the overwhelming physical evidence, the trial was swift. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The legal system had worked. Justice, in its cold and final way, had been served. But justice could not bring Imani Washington back. It could not erase the story of how her life was stolen, not by a monster who lurked in the dark, but by a man who smiled and poured coffee. The case of Imani Washington became a tragic, cautionary tale, a story told to incoming freshmen at orientation, a stark reminder of the dangers that hide in plain sight. Her art, the charcoal portraits that seemed to breathe, were displayed in the university's library, a memorial to the talent and potential that had been extinguished. Her story serves as a chilling testament to a fundamental truth about the nature of evil. It is often not loud and obvious, but quiet and patient. It wears a friendly face, it offers a sympathetic ear, and it preys on the most human of all vulnerabilities, the simple, desperate need to be seen and understood. It finds the lonely, the hurting, and the lost, and it offers them a warm, safe place before leading them into the cold, endless dark.